Hello and welcome to the North vs. South podcast, a podcast about gaming, technology, movies and TV. This week we discuss the first 2 episodes of the latest Marvel TV series, Loki. Please be aware of major spoilers for Loki and minor spoilers about the MCU in general throughout this episode.
So Josh, I've managed to watch Loki, the first 2 episodes, and I've got to say, I was expecting it to be rubbish. I was actually kind of impressed with it.
Oh, that's good. I'm pleased, with what you were thinking about the last 2 Marvel Phase 4 shows. Yeah, we're obviously huge spoiler warnings for episodes 1 and 2, but yeah, we're really enjoying it. Both Jen and I. It's really fun. We've been watching all of that, the teaser trailers and everything, and it's just had this like huge air of fun around the whole TV show. Loki himself. What's his face? Who's Mobius?
You mean the
Owen Wilson?
Yeah.
He's great in it. And also like the music as well. Oh, it's just great. Loved the reference to DB Cooper in the first episode. Yeah, it's just been, after the first 2 TV shows, they were quite heavy in a way, particularly in light of the pandemic, which wasn't written into either of the shows. So this one is just absurd, and yeah, it's just a whole lot of fun that's going on. It's giving me, what was it giving me vibes of? It was giving me vibes of another show. I can't remember what at the moment now, but...
Well, what I generally like is that I was expecting it to just be like this fanboyish, like, dun dun dun, dun and then like, that, what's his face? Is it Owen Wilson, the character? He's just like, I don't care who you are. You could be whatever God, almighty. To me, you're just a guy that I need help with.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. Just you need to help me. And I thought that was kind of refreshing. Where it's like we're not doing all this fanboyish stuff. It's like you're just a character, and I need you to just do something for me. And the actual plot, where the time plot was kind of interesting as well.
Oh, what at the end of episode 2?
Well, no, in the first episode when I explained like the main timeline and anybody that goes off the main timeline we have to capture. Yeah. And I was like, that's really interesting. It's like, it's
really weird though, right? Because why is Loki on trial for doing something like that?
Because he came out of the main timeline.
Right.
He was found.
But he doesn't know of these higher timelines, does he? So why is he being punished for just being himself? Do you get what I mean? Like, he even said the Avengers were down there, and they were time hopping, and they caused him to get hold of the Tesseract. So why is he the one who's sort of being, he was almost like, judged and killed off in that first episode. So actually, yeah, why is it his fault?
Well, they just came up with some line of saying, well, the Avengers are good, and you're kind of bad.
Yeah, it doesn't really answer it though, does it?
No, it doesn't. It's kind of a plot hole there, but I think that was just going to be an obvious question that people will ask. So they were just like, "How comes the Avengers they've used the what's that square device, the Tesseract?"
They used the quantum time travel, didn't they? So
the only thing that I was like in the first episode is like, I need your help to stop you, but there's another version.
Mm.
And then when they showed the person in the hood and everything, I was like, "There's no way that's him," because why would they not show the hood like him? Why would they have the hood? You know what I mean? Why would they keep it like, oh, there's something mysterious about this person, and then we find out it's not actually him; it's a woman.
Well, no, it never was him. It's a variant. It is Loki, but it's a different Loki. So in episode 2 where they were talking about all the different Loki. So you had like the Hulk Loki, the Frost Child Blue Loki. They're all Loki, just from different multiverses. So this female Loki supposedly is just another incarnation of Loki. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot of parallels coming up to Doctor Who. I say that, I'm the only Doctor Who fan in this podcast. But, it's like the episodes where they did parallel universe hopping, and suddenly you got like multiple Pete Tylers and Jackie Tyler and all that sort of stuff. So it's like they're the same person, but different incarnations of that person. So it's not like they're not chasing our MCU version of Loki in his future. It's just a different Loki with similar traits and mischievousness and all of that sort of stuff. That being said, and this, I've not come up with this, but it's also quite possible that this female Loki isn't actually Loki at all. That's just speculation that I've heard, around the internet. I'm not a huge comic book, I don't know all the characters and everything, but I think someone has referenced that they seem to be quite consistent with a different character in the MCU. So she might actually be framing Loki in a way.
Yeah. We just have to find that out. But I kind of just like the premise in general. I thought it was like very refreshing because, like that other show that for some reason you really recommended to me, and you really said how good it is.
Which one, Captain?
The 50s comedy sitcom that I was just like, I didn't know what was going on.
WandaVision. Did you watch any more of them?
No, I haven't had any chance. But then that's the difference. Where this version, the first episode, they tell you the premise, they tell you what's going on. I was hooked straight away. Like WandaVision, I didn't know what was. I was like, what is this? What's going on?
That is part of the fun about WandaVision, is that every episode is actually very different. But that being said, like the first episode of Loki was very. It was just, obviously they're laying the groundwork for everything. So there was a lot of them sitting at a table talking, a lot of talking. That's one of the lines: talky. You do love to talk, don't you? But then that's what they did. They spent the whole episode talking. Then there was a bit more action in episode 2, and judging by the trailers that we have had, there's going to be a lot more action coming. So
yeah, well, there's that advertisement on. I see a lot with him walking around. Or he's got those like 2 bodyguards next to him, and he's got like a badge, and he's got like a green suit on or something.
Do you remember the main trailer that went out about a month or 2 ago?
To be honest, I don't. I'm trying to do what you suggested many years ago. Not watch trailers.
I did watch some of the trailers, and I actually stopped watching the trailers because I noticed that they were just reusing the same clip. So I was like, oh, this is a bit pointless. But what I found absolutely hilarious was that one of the scenes that show in the trailer, they seem to like surround Loki or one of the Lokis after something, and they're all pointing their weapons at him. And I could have sworn someone was pointing a banana at Loki. I think it was just a gold or a yellow gun, but it looked like they were throwing a banana at him. It was really weird.
How many episodes do you know? Do you know how many episodes there are of this?
I think we looked it up. There's either 6 or there's 9. It's the same number as one of the previous TV shows they've done, so it's not going to be a huge amount of shows. And I think that's about. I think that seems to be about right. That's enough to start a premise, have a good middle, and have a good end, as opposed to drawing it out for 22 episodes or rushing it into a really long film. So I did quite like that in Captain. Because I think that was
Winter Soldier thing.
Yeah, I think that one was 6 episodes, and WandaVision was 9.
I still haven't seen that. Is that any good?
Yeah, I mean, if you like the Captain America films, it's that. So all 3 TV shows have had their different themes. WandaVision was a completely new theme, and the TV, the 50s, 60s TV show, removed that layer. The theme of that show was magic. It's closer to Doctor Strange, that kind of magic and the realm of magic, as opposed to science and technology.
I have to admit, I've never watched the film.
What, Doctor Strange?
Yeah.
All right, but you saw him
Sorry.
in Infinity War and
Yeah.
Endgame, so it's that kind of stuff. I don't want to say Harry Potter, but it's very much wizardry and that kind of stuff. Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Doctor Strange. That's where it sits. Captain America is very real world stuff. There was technology in it. It was based around a lot of the same stuff that Captain America, the early films were based around, and the sort of legacy of all of that stuff that kind of happened. And then Loki is just off the wall bonkers in so many ways. So that's sort of where at the moment all three TV shows sort of seem to sit.
But don't you think, like, for me, watching it, I thought it was just so refreshing from the other sort of films where it's just like, it kind of doesn't really fit into any of the other sort of types of films.
Well, you mean the rest of the Marvel films, or as a whole?
Yeah.
But that's the nice thing, though, isn't it? Because they plucked out Loki from 2012, they don't have to follow everything that happened after that. This Loki has no idea about Ultron or anything else that happened on Earth or in other worlds. This is pre-Dark World Loki. I mean, we see that in a couple of episodes.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that because he was.
So this is the thing. Do you remember that where he saw Loki as the Hulk in that hologram? Remember, this version of Loki got slammed by the Hulk, at the top of the Avengers Towers. The puny guards scene that happened like days, maybe a week earlier to this Loki. So that's really fresh in his mind, and all these things that are happening where he keeps losing these fights and the battles with the Minutemen, and particularly that woman who really doesn't trust him, and he keeps losing all these battles. He's just off this monumental loss of the Battle of New York, so he is completely beaten at this point. He's not in a great place, really. One might say.
I completely forgot about that. Well, they did show at the start of.
Yeah, so you got to remember, this is not Ragnarok. He was semi trustworthy in a weird way. No, this is like back in the early days. Loki, you can't trust him can't trust him as far as you can throw him. And well, Thor can throw him quite far, but normal human can't.
It was quite interesting seeing some of the flashback scenes. I was like, man, they look so young back then.
I know. That scene as well where Clint is like, they're all sort of like capturing him, and you're seeing it from his perspective. It looks so cheesy. So cheesy.
Yeah.
Do you know the one I mean?
I think so, yeah. I was just like, man, they all look really young compared to what they look like now. But I thought it was quite cool about, like, they were showing him like what will happen if he continued his path, and it's something like his mum's gonna be killed by.
I think so. Yeah, I couldn't remember. Were they showing him what actually happened in Thor: The Dark World, or were they showing him what might have happened?
I can't remember.
I can't remember enough of The Dark World, which I know is a bit of a meme because obviously no one likes that film. But I think they were showing him what did happen, what he did do in the correct timeline, because he saw that, and he also saw his death in Infinity War, and that kind of affected him, didn't it?
See, I don't even remember him dying in Infinity War. Man.
He so when Hulk went, Hulk got sent to Earth.
Yeah.
At the beginning of Infinity War, that was just after Loki was strangled to death by Thanos.
Right. Yeah. Well, they did show that in the future kind of hologram thing. Didn't they?
Yeah. That is what happened in the MCU.
Yeah.
I imagine they used like alternate camera angles to make it look a little bit different, but that is what happened in the MCU to the main Loki. And maybe they did that to kind of quicken his sort of bringing his mischievousness has come back quite a lot from what 2012, 2013 Loki would have been. So maybe they've used that to kind of rein him back in a little bit. And maybe that's to dull our senses, and they're going to do something to kind of like to throw us off again. But that's the funny thing, is because at all points you just don't know, is he acting for himself selfishly, or is he acting for Mobius or the TVA? It's just like you just don't know what he's up to.
Well, it's kind of interesting that is it Mobius, the Owen Wilson character?
Yes, yep.
Where he's like, you're not really sure what his motives are. It's like he gave him two motives. He's like, I'm doing it for myself, and I'm doing it for you because I see something inside your heart, something like that. He said, and you're like,
yeah, I think Mobius is just.
I think he's doing it for him. I think he sees a gem inside Loki, and he's like, I'm trying to help you
think?
out. Yeah,
I think he's just using him as a means to the end. By the sounds of things, the TVA and Mobius have been trying to capture this other Loki for a while. I don't know exactly what this race of people are. Are they human? Are they not human? There's a part of me that thinks they're kind of born or made into the role of the TVA. And I just think he's a bit like when you watch an old cop or a detective TV series and they're 100% committed to their job. Like, I don't know if Mobius has a wife or a family, or if he lives at the TVA, or if they go off or whatever. So I feel like he's just someone who does his job, and he does whatever he needs to do it. Not in a really bad way like some people are, but he's trying to do it by the books for so long, and they're still losing people. So now he's doing this slightly more drastic thing to try and learn how a Loki behaves to try and catch a different Loki. So I think he might just be using Loki as a means to the end. But I think he does trust him a little bit, even if that trust is more of he has to push Loki to do mischief, knowing full well that he's going to do mischief. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like, don't trust Loki to behave, just expect him to misbehave and know how to deal with that instead, and you might get better results. So the thing is, it's like, at the end of episode 2, where he ran out the door, Loki wasn't moving, he was just stood there, and Mobius was running down, and he said, Loki, don't go through that door. Whatever you do, do not go through that door. Loki was just standing still. But Mobius is probably, he's almost pushing Loki, because Mobius is like, I need you to go through that door, and I need you to go out there, follow this person, we'll meet back again in the future, and we'll do what we need to do separately for a while, and just, so there might be a little bit of that going on.
Do you think they might do this thing where there's other science fiction material where if you see yourself, say like you go back in time and then you accidentally encounter yourself, it like destabilizes the galaxy? And
no, because that's the entire right. That is TVA's role, is to sort out those things, but that's not what they're doing here. Like, female Loki is from a different multiverse. It's not a timeline thing, is it?
I'm saying if the Loki that they have now, say for some reason he goes back in time to then stop himself from getting captured, or going back, like maybe stopping the Avengers in the Avengers, who knows?
Well, they did sort of they explained some sort of things, didn't they, about Nexus events, and similarly to Doctor Who, where they have fixed points in time. I think that's what these Nexus events are, where, that he said that, didn't he? He's like, why don't we just go back 3 minutes and, like, stop them from attacking your Minutemen? And he says you can't. 5 minutes in the TVA is 5 minutes wherever the Nexus event is happening.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I know that's not quite what you're going with, but I just wonder if there's something a little bit like that, which is like there are some big moments in the universe that are fixed, and you can't really change them by just doing that. But I mean, that's not something that they have answered. I don't know if that's something that is going to crop up in this series, but I mean, maybe it will, or maybe they'll just skip right over it and just pretend it's not a problem that they need to deal with.
There was one bit where I was like, what's going on? Where he was in the supermarket place and the black lady security,
Mm.
and I was like, oh, is she working? Is she this whole time she's the Loki? And then I realized I was like, oh no, it's taking over. It's her body.
It was really well done because the first time I missed it as well.
Yeah.
I presumed that Loki was shape-shifting. I didn't realise that this Loki was doing whatever it was. I don't know. They were like transferring the energy. It was almost like remote control of a host body, and that was transferring between hosts. So it took a minute for me to kind of catch on. But yeah, I totally missed it the first time because I was like, oh man, if she's that security lady, how long has Loki been in at the TVA?
Yeah.
Weeks, months, days? But then it became, quite apparent when they then had that fight with the trucker guy, that they were kind of like doing that sort of like transferring of energy or whatever it was that she is doing to control them for her.
So what do you think is going to happen in the next few episodes then? What are you expecting?
I think if it's a 6-episode series, I think the next 1 or 2 episodes, Loki and Mobius, I think the two main characters are going to be separated for a little bit and are going to have to work independently of each other. And they're just going to have this sort of like trust and faith that each other are kind of working towards the same goals. Whether or not they'll have any communication at all or not, I'm not entirely sure. I think Loki is going to have to do a whole load of chasing of the other Loki, and I suspect because in the trailers there was a lot of different worlds and there seemed to be a lot of different Lokis. So I think we've got one Loki who will be chasing this other Loki throughout all the mischiefness. And Mobius, I think maybe the TVA might be like one step behind and they're like trying to get there. A bit like, do you remember in The Mummy, the ones with Brendan Fraser?
Yeah.
And do you remember the kid gets, their son gets kidnapped, and he keeps leaving these sort of like clues in the sand. He builds like the pyramids and the Sphinx and everything. And the parents, they're always like one step behind trying to chase him down. So maybe Mobius and the TVA will be one step behind Loki at each point before they eventually meet up again in episode 4 or 5 or something like that. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
You know what's worth considering though is because the Loki from the Avengers, like in his normal timeline, he was never going to touch that what's that box?
Tesseract.
The Tesseract to go forward in time or back in time. So he's been taken out of that in this timeline. So basically everything we've watched up to this point never really existed because he's not there. And so you're going to get a different event.
He has to survive this and be put back.
Probably, yeah.
I don't know, because they were about to execute him, weren't they? I think that charge that they set in Mongolia put the version that we saw in Ragnarok, put him back in that world.
Right.
I think that's what those reset charges do. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I think. I think, as they quite often show on the screen, like there's this like spike that appears, and then they put the charge down, and then that spike disappears. I think that's them putting everything back to normal, presumably including people. So that then puts the MCU proper version of Loki back in New York, and then taken off to Asgard like he did to cause havoc in Thor: The Dark World. I think.
Somehow it's going to all connect somehow. They'll think of a way.
But I don't think it has to. I think that's quite literally the whole point, is that we're in phase 4 now. It can just go, things are kind of possible and able to just go off the rail a little bit.
Yeah.
Have a bit of fun with things. We got this, we got the multiverse of madness.
I don't know. I don't kind of like I don't like the feeling that, I know you might not be a Star Trek fan, but when J.J. Abrams rebooted Star Trek as a franchise and was pretty much everything before didn't exist. like in the story was.
But that's not how the MCU is going ahead with it.
Well, who knows?
Everything in the MCU did exist.
Yes, but because he's been taken out of that timeline, some of the material in that what we've seen is not gonna.
Yeah, only for this show though. Like when we go see like Scarlet Witch film, that's going to be everything pre MCU. When we get to the Multiverse of Madness, that's going to include everything that's happened except for the Loki film, because this Loki film or this Loki TV show has happened in a different reality. So they can go off and do weird things in this TV show of Loki.
That's why I like that.
Yeah, and that's great. That's great. Like, I love it when TV shows can do that and they're not tied down to the main things. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was a TV show that I really enjoyed for the first series or two, but I kind of got bummed out when in Captain America the Hydra thing sort of came up, because the entire show of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. changed from a Monster of the Week sort of thing, which I really enjoyed, to this different thing where they were kind of sort of dealing with Hydra, sort of dealing with this other thing that was their own shows sort of thing. The whole, I don't know if you know, how much of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. do you know?
I've seen some of it. I know
so you know Agent Coulson is revived in that show. So he, at one point, canonically, was alive in the MCU. And I quite liked that. I liked his character. I liked what they were doing in that show for the first sort of half of it. And if the second half was basically the same, but still doing their own story arc, I think that would have been a really good series. But then they had to bring in that second story arc of the Hydra uprising and everything. And that kind of made it very complicated. It wasn't quite as annoying. With Loki, they're not bound by anything post the Avengers film. So they can do whatever they like, pretty much. They might reference some other MCU stuff like they have done. They have referenced this Loki's entire lifetime, but I don't think that's his lifetime anymore. I think the original Loki is still in the original Loki, and this is just a variant who is now stuck in the variant state.
It's interesting.
I don't know what's going to happen to him at the end of the show. Like, do they release him back? Do they mind wipe him? Do they keep him around as an agent? I don't know.
One thing that you brought up, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you can definitely tell, like, Disney are putting a lot more money in these newer TV shows compared to the ones they previously done.
Oh yes, you can.
I think it's good though. I think it's good that they've managed to pull some money together for the TV shows and keep the same quality as good as the films.
Yeah, and if you I don't know if you watch the Netflix ones as well, and that's one of the reasons I like that they are shorter. The seasons are shorter because if you've got a budget, I have no idea what the budgets are, but if you've got a $20 million budget and you've got 20 episodes, well, that's $1 million an episode, which doesn't actually go that far. But if you've got $20 million and you're doing 6 episodes, well, that goes a lot further. You can hire better screenwriters and have a much better story. You can spend a lot more time on the CGI, which for this show is going to be really important. They're spending a lot of time on different planets or whatever. Yeah, it's nice that they've A, got the money from Disney, and they've B, got fewer episodes that they need to spend it on, so it goes a lot further. Of course, on the flip side, they do have Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson, and I bet they are not cheap.
No, definitely worth it. Well, they kind of need it. Like, the show is called Loki, so it needs to be in it.
One thing I loved in episode 2 is when Mobius was talking to the judge lady in her office, and he was giving this speech, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was talking about how they'd done the same thing trying to catch Loki, the other Loki. They'd done the same thing time and time and time and time and time again, and they just got to try something different and give it a chance. And I could see straight through that, and that was to all the people they were like, why is Owen Wilson, master of comedy, doing this show? It's totally not in his wheelhouse. And that was Owen talking to the audience saying, look, this isn't what I normally do. I'm doing something different. Get over it.
To be honest, I never really rated him as a comedian. I thought it was pretty good.
I'm not saying you did. I'm not saying anyone did. But that's
He's pretty good in it.
He is kind of typecast as a character in all of his films. He's got this whole wow. It is him, isn't it? Wow. He's the wow guy. And here he is. He's doing. There are some really good comedic elements to this TV show, but he is phenomenal in this TV show. Actually,
It's pretty good.
really enjoying him in this. So, and him and Tom together are just fantastic.
That pretty much wraps that up. The only other thing we probably should do is once the season is concluded, probably catch up and give our final thoughts on the series.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. You can find us on YouTube and on most popular podcast apps. Please feel free to leave us a like, comment, review, or subscribe. We would really appreciate it.